Matthew was a very loved child. He was an 18-year-old American boy like everybody else in this country.
Normal boy.
When he was born, just the cutest little baby with big brown eyes.
He was a handsome little boy, and he was very happy all the time.
He was such a free spirit. He was so happy all the time, and he had a smile to die for.
I remember Matt's smile, boy, I'll tell you something.
He was a charmer. Yeah, those eyes of his could probably get him in a lot of trouble.
He was always involved, he likes being involved in sports.
We used to play basketball, paintball. And
he was always a scrapper, though. That's one thing I liked about him. If you picked on him, he'd pick on your back.
Someone to always talk to, personal relationships, someone to depend on.
He was a great person, lots of fun.
I miss him. I miss him every day of my life.
He was having trouble sleeping, and he was having bad dreams and waking up and starting to have panic attacks. That's when I said to him, Matt, maybe it would be helpful if you talked to somebody outside of the family, would you want to do that? So we go in there, and after no more than 15 minutes, she gives us samples of Lexapro. At that point, he stopped wanting to talk. He seemed to be withdrawing more. This was weird behavior for him. Well, a lot was happening at this time also, and he was graduating from high school. Of course, the big plan, the kids always, they go to Senior Beach Week. He didn't want to go. He wanted to go visit his brother. And off he went. The day that he was supposed to be coming home, it was around 1 o'clock. I hadn't heard from him yet. He was supposed to call me when he finally left. Later on, I guess it was after I got off work, I called, and he didn't answer. But a little while later, he called me back, and he said, he might have said he was almost to North Carolina. It was about 11:30, and I called. He said, I'm fine, I just passed Roanoke. I woke up at around 2:30, kind of jumped up at the clock, and realized he should have been home an hour ago. So I called the cell phone. It went straight to voicemail. I kept calling and calling. I'm like, Matthew, answer the friggin' phone. I was so upset. Fell asleep, woke up again. It was about 6 o'clock in the morning. He still wasn't home. I didn't know what to do. I started getting ready for work. Went to work. I could hardly function. I went, told my boss I have to go home. Get in the door, the phone's ringing. And there's this man on the other end, and he said, I'm looking for the family of Matthew Stubing. I said, this is his mother. Who's this? And he said, I'm calling about the jumping. That was the beginning of my story. As a mother, I needed to make sense of what happened to my child. The first answer came when my husband found a magazine article that linked psychiatric drugs to suicide. I was horrified. It answered some questions, but made me think of so many more. I had to find out for myself. I had to do something. This is for you, Matthew. The first thing I discovered was there were a lot of other mothers who had been through similar experiences and were speaking out. Thank you all very much for being here today. When I took Matthew to the doctor, he was diagnosed with a clinical depression, and they said it was because of a chemical imbalance.
They're not telling you that it's entirely psychologically based and subjective. They're just saying, oh, well, based on these symptoms, you have a chemical imbalance.
Mm-hmm. And with a chemical imbalance, it's like, where did they come up with that? What chemicals?
Where are the tests, If somebody tells you that your child has ADHD, ask them to draw their blood and show you the chemical imbalance causing this. And they can't do it. It's completely arbitrary and subjective, and it is their opinion.
And you want to do what is right for your child, so you bow to the pressure because you think that they know. You know your child better than anybody. Tune them out. You do what your heart tells you. You don't listen to them.
These women were strong, knowledgeable, and determined to get the word out. Were there professionals who also knew the truth about psychiatric drugs? There were a lot more than I thought. One of them was Dr. Gary Coles. a medical doctor, and an authority on the dangers of psychiatric drugs.
Drugs just alter the brain. You know, they never cure anything, and then they make you permanent patients, which is great for business and bad for patients. And suicide, completed suicide, is just one of the thousands of adverse effects that the industry refuses to acknowledge.
Dr. Coles was right. After doing my own research, I found thousands of side effects for every psychiatric drug, including Lexapro, the one Matthew was taking. But instead of warning us, the authorities are playing down the side effects, as I found out from Dr. Doris Rapp.
Drugs such as that one can cause serious weight gain. It can cause depression. It can cause dizziness. And there are many isolated reports of almost any area of the body being affected by those. These are the ones that cause the obesity, the diabetes, the depression, the suicidal thoughts, the heart disease.
This problem of the drugging of children was far worse than I had ever imagined. 20 million kids worldwide are on some type of psychiatric drug. 20 million potential Matthews. And according to a children's social worker, Sonia Mohammed, there's no group of children harder hit with these drugs than children in foster care.
In Los Angeles County alone, we have probably about 50,000 kids in the system.
What percentage of those do you think are on drugs?
I would be willing to say from experience somewhere between 50% and 75%. Yeah,
the more experts I talked to and the more questions I asked, the more obvious it became. Our children are being drugged at a rate that is truly scary.
I personally have not seen any curtailing of prescribing drugs. I see it as still getting worse and worse.
They're preying on the most vulnerable. They're preying on the people who they should be protecting the most and helping the most.
Especially children, their personalities are to be gregarious and fun, and to take that away from them, I think, is a crime.
I kept thinking back to my children and what the other mothers had said about theirs. Their smiles, their imagination and creativity, and their boundless energy.
My name is Tyler Milford, and I am 11.
My age is 7 years old. Actually, just make that 7.5. I'm 8 years old, and I want to be a chef at a 5-star restaurant.
I'm going to be an orthopedic surgeon.
When I grow up, I want to be a geologist.
I would like to become a professional basketball player.
Professional clothes designer.
I want to be a musician, a actress,
director, a teacher, dancer, and a singer. I'd go for speed skating if I wanted to. I'm really good. I just want to keep practicing and practicing until I know I'm perfect at it and then do something big.
Yes, I plan to get an Oscar.
I was hoping that it would be like the funnest thing that I would do in my life.
Losing a child is the worst thing that could ever happen to a parent. Children need protection. They need guidance and they need love. They don't need psychiatric drugs. And I'm going to tell that to as many people as I can.